Chosen one. Stop scrolling. This message is not finding everyone, and it is not finding you by accident. What you are about to hear is God's message, arriving at the exact moment your soul was ready to recognize it. This video is about why you were drawn here, why this moment feels different, and why the feeling of something big coming is not imagination but activation. You didn't pause because the title was interesting. You paused because truth reached you before thought could block it. That sudden stillness in your body, that seriousness in your chest, that quiet inner pull is not emotion. It is divine alignment already at work, and once it activates, nothing stays the same. This message is not meant for everyone, and it never was. God's message does not compete for attention. It arrives with precision when the soul is prepared. If you are still here, it's because your spiritual awakening has already begun, even if you couldn't name it yet. You are not late. You are not behind. And you are not imagining this sense of something big coming. That feeling is not anxiety, fantasy, or hope. It is awareness locking into timing. This video reveals what that feeling truly means, why chosen ones feel it first, and what happens next when the shift can no longer be ignored. Stay with this to the end, because once you understand why this message found you, you won't be able to unsee what's already unfolding. Chosen ones always feel the shift before it becomes visible. That is part of the divine calling and chosen one path. You sense movement before it happens. You feel pressure before change arrives. You notice internal realignment before the external world catches up. This is not because you are special in an ego sense. It is because spiritual awakening has been unfolding in you quietly, steadily, and honestly. You have been changing even when you could not explain how. Notice how this moment feels different. There is no rush, no hype, no excitement trying to convince you. There is a weight to it, a seriousness, a grounded knowing. That is how God's message feels when it is real. It settles into you like memory returning, like truth you already knew, but forgot you remembered. The feeling of something big coming does not create noise. It creates clarity. Divine alignment works beneath logic. It bypasses overthinking and speaks directly to awareness. That is why this message feels personal without trying to be. That is why you feel addressed even though no one called your name. The chosen one does not need to be convinced. The soul recognizes what the mind will understand later. This is how spiritual awakening begins to move from concept into experience. If you feel that subtle inner confirmation right now, not excitement but certainty, that is alignment. And if you want to acknowledge that alignment consciously, comment 777 once, not as superstition, but as recognition, as a quiet agreement with what you already feel. Nothing more, nothing forced. The reason this message reached you now is because the season has shifted, not suddenly, not dramatically, but decisively. The feeling of something big coming is the awareness that your role, your responsibility, and your inner posture are changing. God's message is not warning you. It is preparing you. Preparation always comes before movement. Stillness always comes before clarity. Pressure always comes before expansion. You may have felt different for a long time without having language for it. You may have felt out of sync with the world, sensitive to things others ignore, uncomfortable with noise, superficial goals, or empty conversations. That is not weakness. That is spiritual awakening, refining your awareness. The chosen one path is not loud at the beginning. It is isolating, grounding, and humbling. That is how integrity is built before responsibility increases. Understand this clearly now. You are not imagining the war you feel beneath the surface of life. It is real. It is not a war of panic or fear, but a war of awareness, truth, and alignment. Light does not announce itself with chaos. It stands quietly and exposes what no longer belongs. Your light is necessary not because of who you want to be, but because of who you already are becoming. This message is circling back to where it began for a reason. This is God's message. You were called. The feeling you've had, the sense of something big coming, the inner shift that won't let you go back to sleep. None of it is random. Spiritual awakening does not knock once and leave. It stays until you listen. Divine alignment does not flatter. It steadies. It asks you to stand upright in truth. You do not need to rush ahead. You do not need to prove anything. You only need to remain present and honest with what you feel. The chosen one does not chase destiny. Destiny unfolds as alignment deepens. And right now, alignment is deepening. If this touched your soul, if something inside you quietly said, "This is true," then comment 111. Not for validation, not for attention, but because you know it, you were called. Why chosen ones feel what others can sit? Chosen one, there is a reason you feel things others dismiss, ignore, or never even notice. It is not because you are fragile, dramatic, or overly emotional. And it is not because you are trying to be spiritual. This sensitivity comes from the divine calling and chosen one awareness working beneath logic, long before the mind finds words for it. God's message does not enter through excitement. It enters through depth. And depth always feels quieter than noise. Most people move through life responding only to what is obvious, loud, or urgent. The chosen one does not. You feel shifts before they happen. You sense truth before it is spoken. You recognize changes in energy, meaning, and direction without being told why. This is not imagination. It is spiritual awakening maturing inside you. Awakening does not always look like visions or dramatic moments. More often, it looks like seriousness, discernment, and an inner weight that tells you something matters, even when you cannot explain it. That is why the feeling arrives quietly. There is no rush, no adrenaline, no emotional high. When God's message is real, it does not excite the ego, it steadies the soul. It removes distraction instead of adding stimulation. The chosen one often feels calm where others feel entertained, reflective where others feel impulsive, and serious where others feel careless. This is not superiority. It is responsibility forming before awareness fully understands it. Divine calling and chosen one awareness works below surface thought. It does not ask permission from logic. It bypasses doubt and lands directly in recognition. That is why you often feel something is off, something is shifting, or something is coming, even when everything looks normal on the outside. Spiritual awakening sharpens perception. It tunes you to what is unfolding, rather than what is being advertised. Many chosen ones struggle at first because they assume this sensitivity means something is wrong with them. They wonder why they cannot enjoy what others enjoy, why certain conversations feel empty, why certain paths feel impossible to follow. This is not rebellion, it is alignment. God's message reshapes desire before it reshapes direction. What once satisfied you no longer fits because you are no longer operating at the same level of awareness. Understand this clearly. True spiritual awakening does not inflate ego. It deflates it. It humbles you. It makes you quieter, not louder. More observant, not more reactive. The chosen one does not need to be seen. They need to be true. That is why the calling often feels heavy at first. Weight is added before strength is fully revealed. The war you feel is not external chaos alone. It is an internal tension between what is false and what is becoming true. That war is real. It is not imaginary. It is the friction that appears when light increases. God's message does not arrive to comfort illusion. It arrives to strengthen truth. And truth always demands a higher level of integrity. You are called because your light is necessary, not optional. Necessary light does not flicker for attention. It stands quietly and changes the room simply by being present. This is why your awareness feels serious. This is why the feeling of responsibility outweighs excitement. The divine calling and chosen one path is not about escaping the world. It is about seeing clearly within it. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this without resistance. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you feel. You were not misreading the signs. You were not overthinking life. You were being prepared. Spiritual awakening does not announce itself with fireworks. It reveals itself through consistency, discernment, and an unshakable sense that you cannot return to who you were before. Your sensitivity is not weakness, it is calibration. Your seriousness is not heaviness, it is readiness. The world does not need more noise, it needs grounded light. And that is why you were called into awareness instead of distraction. If this touched your soul, if something inside you feels seen rather than excited, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. The pressure before the shift. Chosen one. If life has felt heavier instead of easier, tighter instead of freer, slower instead of clearer, there is nothing wrong with you. This is not failure. This is not punishment. This is preparation. Before every divine shift, pressure appears, not to break you, but to focus you. God's message often arrives wrapped in tension, because tension reveals what no longer belongs. Many chosen ones reach this stage and assume they have made a mistake. They wonder why motivation fades, why familiar goals feel empty, why progress seems delayed, even though effort continues. This confusion is not regression. It is spiritual awakening, moving from surface understanding into deeper alignment. When something big is coming, the old structures must loosen first, and loosening rarely feels comfortable. Pressure is the signal that movement is near, but it does not feel like movement at first. It feels like restriction. Life narrows your options. Energy becomes selective. Time feels slower. You may feel restless without knowing what you are restless for. This is the space between who you were and who you are becoming. The divine shift does not begin with clarity. It begins with compression. Relationships often change in this phase. Some fall away quietly. Others feel strained without obvious reason. Conversations that once flowed now feel forced. This is not because you are becoming distant or superior. It is because alignment is changing your frequency. Spiritual awakening naturally separates what resonates from what merely coexisted. God's message does not destroy connections. It reveals which ones were built on habit instead of truth. Old motivations also lose their grip here. Things you once chased no longer excite you. Goals that once defined you feel hollow. This can be unsettling because motivation has been your compass. But when something big coming begins to approach, external motivation gives way to internal readiness. You are no longer driven by desire alone. You are being guided by purpose, even if you cannot name it yet. This is where many people turn back, not because the calling disappears, but because the pressure feels unfamiliar. The mind wants relief. The soul wants alignment. The war between comfort and calling becomes real here, And yes, it is a war, not a violent one, but a decisive one. A war between old identity and emerging truth. You are not imagining this conflict. It is the cost of transition. God's message does not rush this process. It allows the pressure to do its work. Pressure clarifies priorities. It exposes distractions. It strips away false urgency. Under pressure, what is unnecessary falls away on its own. That is why life feels slower. Slowness is not delay. Slowness is precision. Understand this clearly now. The heaviness you feel is not sadness. It is weight. And weight only appears when something valuable is being formed. Light without responsibility feels playful. Light with responsibility feels serious. The divine shift you are approaching requires steadiness, not excitement. That is why the feeling of something big coming carries gravity instead of thrill. You may notice that silence feels more natural now. That noise drains you faster. That you crave clarity over stimulation. These are signs of spiritual awakening maturing. You are not losing joy. You are refining it. Joy rooted in truth lasts longer than excitement rooted in distraction. Circle back to the beginning and hear this without doubt or hesitation. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you feel, and you never were. The pressure you've been carrying is not random, not accidental, and not the result of personal failure. You were called into this space intentionally, placed here with precision. The tension you sense beneath the surface of your life is real. It is the quiet war between alignment and resistance, between truth and comfort, between light and what can no longer travel with you. Your light is necessary precisely because it has been tested by pressure. Light that has never been challenged flickers the moment resistance appears. But light that has been pressed, questioned and refined learns how to stand. That is why this phase feels demanding. You are not being pushed aside. You are being shaped. Not delayed, but strengthened. Not paused, but prepared for a weight you could not have carried before. Do not judge yourself for feeling tired. Fatigue here is not weakness. It is evidence of transformation. Do not rush to escape the discomfort, because discomfort is doing sacred work in you. And do not label this season as failure simply because it feels heavy. Something big coming never announces itself with ease or excitement. It announces itself by rearranging your inner world, stripping away what no longer fits, and steadying you so you can hold what is next without losing yourself. Stay present with what you feel. Stay honest with where you are. Stay grounded in the truth that this season has purpose. The pressure will not last forever, but the clarity it creates will. The strength forming in you now will remain long after this moment passes. What you are becoming is not temporary. And when the shift fully unfolds, you will understand why it could only happen this way. If this touched your soul, if this explained something you could not put into words, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. What something big coming actually means spiritually. Chosen one, it is time to bring clarity to this feeling you have carried quietly for so long. The sense of something big coming is real, but it may not mean what the mind first imagines. Big does not always arrive loudly. It does not always announce itself through sudden events, public recognition, or dramatic external change. Very often, what is big in the spiritual sense begins internally, where no one else can see it yet. And that is why confusion arises when expectation is not aligned with truth. God's message does not activate chaos. It activates order, and order often begins with internal realignment before anything outside of you shifts. Something big coming can mean that your inner position is changing, that your role in the world is being refined, or that your level of responsibility is increasing. These shifts do not need applause, they need readiness. The divine shift works quietly because it is precise. Many chosen ones expect the shift to rescue them from difficulty, but the truth is deeper than that. The shift often prepares you to carry more, not less, more clarity, more discernment, more weight, more impact. God's message does not remove responsibility from the chosen one, it entrusts it. And trust always comes with preparation. This is why timing unfolds in stages. First comes awareness, then pressure, then recalibration. Only after that does visible movement occur. Something big coming does not happen all at once. It arrives layer by layer, strengthening you as it unfolds. If everything changed at once, integrity would not have time to catch up. Faith would be replaced by shock. God's message protects you from that by working gradually. Understand this now. The divine shift you are sensing is not about elevation without grounding. It is about alignment before assignment. Your internal world must match the external role you are moving toward. That is why the shift feels inward first. Beliefs change, values sharpen, distractions lose their appeal. Silence becomes meaningful. These are signs of internal expansion, not stagnation. The chosen one is often misunderstood at this stage, even by themselves. When nothing big happens outwardly, doubt tries to creep in. The mind asks if it was all imagined. But spiritual truth does not rush to satisfy the mind. It strengthens the soul first. God's message does not entertain impatience. It rewards faithfulness. Something big coming may mean you are being repositioned to influence without forcing, to lead without ego, to serve without losing yourself. These are not flashy transformations. They are foundational ones, and foundations are built underground before anything rises above the surface. This is also where responsibility increases quietly. You may feel more accountable for your choices, less able to ignore what feels wrong, more aware of consequences. This is not pressure meant to overwhelm you. It is clarity meant to steady you. The divine shift sharpens conscience because integrity is required for what comes next. Do not look for signs that impress others. Look for alignment that steadies you. That is how you know God's message is active. When you feel less reactive and more rooted, less distracted and more present, less eager to prove and more committed to truth, something big is already unfolding. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this clearly. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift. You were called into this awareness intentionally. The war you feel beneath life is real. It is the war between surface living and aligned living, between noise and truth, between ego and purpose. And your light is necessary precisely because it has been refined through this process. Necessary light does not arrive chaotic. It arrives calm, clear, and grounded. That is why you feel different now. That is why you cannot return to who you were. Something big coming is not chasing you forward. It is pulling you inward first, so that when you move with authority instead of confusion. Trust this stage. Honor the quiet. Do not underestimate what is forming within you. The divine shift does not announce itself with noise. It announces itself with readiness. If this touched your soul, if something settled inside you rather than excited you, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. The divine calling activating right now. Chosen one, what is activating in you now is not ambition. Ambition pushes, calling pulls. Ambition seeks recognition. Divine calling seeks alignment. This is how you can tell the difference. What you feel is not hunger for status or achievement. It is a quiet pull toward integrity, truth, and steadiness. God's message does not inflate desire. It refines direction. When the divine calling and chosen one activation begins to surface, it does not shout instructions. It adjusts posture. You find yourself less interested in proving and more committed to being true, less reactive, more discerning, less drawn to shortcuts, more anchored in discipline. This is not because you are trying to be better. It is because spiritual awakening is grounding you in responsibility before opportunity. True calling humbles before it elevates. That is why ego does not survive this phase. Anything built on image, validation, or comparison begins to feel uncomfortable. You may notice that praise feels awkward now, that attention drains you faster than it used to, that silence feels more nourishing than applause. This is not withdrawal, it is calibration. God's message is teaching you how to carry weight without being crushed by it. The pull you feel toward truth is not dramatic. It is consistent. You feel less willing to lie to yourself, less tolerant of misalignment, less able to ignore what feels wrong. This is the discipline of awakening. Spiritual awakening does not make you feel powerful, it makes you feel responsible. And responsibility changes how you move through the world. Service may begin to mean something different now, not performance, not sacrifice that empties you, but contribution rooted in clarity. You may feel drawn to help, guide, create, or protect in ways that feel natural rather than forced. Divine calling and chosen one awareness does not demand burnout. It demands presence. It asks you to show up whole, not depleted. This is also where steadiness replaces intensity. You may notice that emotional highs fade, replaced by a calm determination. That calm is strength forming. God's message does not depend on mood, it depends on character. And character is built quietly, through consistency, honesty, and self-governance. Discipline becomes less about control and more about respect. You respect your energy, your time, your words. You stop scattering yourself across things that do not matter. This narrowing is not limitation, it is focus. The divine calling does not expand your life outward until your inner life can support it. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this without doubt. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the pull you feel. You were called into this season intentionally. The war you sense is real. It is the tension between ego-driven movement and purpose-driven alignment, between noise and truth, between reaction and intention. Your light is necessary because it is steady, not flashy, grounded, not chaotic, needed, not performative. The world does not need more ambition. It needs integrity that lasts. And that is what is forming in you now. You do not need to rush ahead. You do not need to announce anything. Let the calling settle. Let discipline strengthen. Let truth clarify. The divine calling and chosen one path unfolds through embodiment, not declaration. If this touched your soul, if you felt recognition instead of excitement, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. Why your life has been rearranging itself. Chosen one, the changes you have lived through were not random interruptions. They were signals. Endings that arrived without closure, delays that made no sense, redirections that felt unfair or confusing were not mistakes in your path. They were adjustments made for alignment. Before a divine shift takes shape, life rearranges itself quietly, removing what no longer fits the calling you are growing into. You may have lost connections you thought would last. Paths you planned carefully may have stalled or dissolved. Opportunities that once seemed perfect may have slipped away at the last moment. At the time, these moments felt like rejection or failure. Now you can begin to see them differently. Spiritual awakening reframes the past, not as wasted effort, but as refinement. What fell away did so because it could not carry the weight of who you are becoming. This is how alignment works. It subtracts before it adds. The divine shift does not build on unstable ground. It clears space. That clearing often feels like loss because the mind clings to familiarity, even when familiarity no longer serves truth. The chosen one learns through experience that removal is often protection in disguise. The feeling of something big coming often follows these disruptions, not before them, after them. When the noise quiets, when the old structure collapses, when certainty dissolves, only then does awareness sharpen enough to sense what is approaching. You could not have felt it earlier because you were still attached to what had to go. Delays play a similar role. They slow momentum so alignment can catch up. You may have felt ready, eager, even prepared, only to be stopped. That pause was not denial, it was calibration. Timing in a divine shift is not about speed, it is about readiness. God's message does not move ahead of integrity. It waits until character can support consequence. Redirection is another form of guidance that often feels harsh at first. Being pushed away from one direction toward another can feel disorienting. But spiritual awakening reveals over time that redirection saves you from paths that would have demanded compromise. The chosen one is not allowed to build success on misalignment. When direction changes abruptly, it is because the original path would have cost you your truth. As these rearrangements happen, identity loosens. You may have asked yourself who you are without certain roles, routines, or relationships. That question is not weakness. It is awakening. The divine shift does not only change what you do, it changes how you see yourself. And that change must happen before anything external can stabilize. The war you felt during these transitions was real. It was the inner resistance to letting go of what once defined you. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means releasing ownership. It means trusting that what is removed makes room for what is necessary. Your light cannot be fully expressed while weighed down by what no longer fits. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this with clarity. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the pattern in your life. You were called into refinement, not randomness. The disruptions were not signs of failure. They were signs of alignment forming beneath the surface. Your light is necessary, and necessary light must be unencumbered. That is why life simplified. That is why certain doors closed. That is why the feeling of something big coming arrived only after things fell away. You are lighter now, even if it felt painful at the time. Lighter means more precise, more available, more ready. Do not romanticize the past or rush the future. Stand in the present with honesty. The divine shift does not ask you to understand everything. It asks you to trust what has been consistent. And what has been consistent is this quiet pull toward truth, toward alignment, toward becoming whole. If this touched your soul, if you suddenly understood your past in a new way, comment 111, because you know it. You are called. How chosen ones prepare without forcing anything. Chosen one, preparation on this path does not look like effort the world understands. It does not look like rushing, proving, announcing, or chasing signs. True preparation is quiet. It happens in stillness, clarity, character, and listening. God's message does not ask you to strain forward. It asks you to stand rooted where you are and become steady enough to receive what is next. This is where many misunderstand the divine calling and chosen one path. They think preparation means doing more, searching harder, or trying to control timing. But forcing creates noise, and noise interferes with discernment. What is meant for you does not require desperation. It requires readiness, and readiness grows in silence far more than in urgency. Stillness is not inactivity. It is awareness without distraction. When you slow down internally, you begin to hear what was always present but drowned out. God's message becomes clearer, not because it suddenly speaks louder, but because you finally stop competing with it. The chosen one learns that listening is an act of strength, not passivity. Clarity follows stillness. You begin to see what aligns and what drains you. Choices become simpler, not because life gets easier, but because truth becomes harder to ignore. This clarity is not harsh. It is clean. It removes confusion by removing compromise. Preparation happens when you consistently choose what feels honest over what feels impressive. Character is the foundation most people try to skip, but the divine calling and chosen one path will not allow shortcuts here. Integrity matters when no one is watching. Discipline matters when there is no immediate reward. How you treat yourself, how you speak when you are tired, how you respond when misunderstood. These moments shape your readiness more than any external action ever could. Listening is the quiet skill that develops last but matters most. Not listening for instructions, signs, or predictions, but listening for alignment. You feel when something resonates. You feel when something is off. That internal signal grows stronger the more you respect it. God's message is often subtle, but it is consistent. It does not confuse. It confirms. Trust becomes natural here. Not blind trust, but grounded trust built from observation. You notice that what falls away does so for a reason, that delays protect you, that redirections refine you. Patience is no longer something you force. It becomes something you embody. You stop asking when and start honoring now. Discernment replaces urgency. You no longer chase every idea or opportunity. You allow things to come into focus before you engage. The chosen one prepares by conserving energy, not scattering it, by staying present, not anxious, by becoming stable enough to hold responsibility without losing themselves. Circle back to the beginning now, and let this settle deeply. This is a message from God. You are not imagining your path or your pace. You are called into a rhythm that does not match the world's noise. The war you feel is real. It is the tension between forcing and trusting, between control and alignment. Your light is necessary, and necessary light must be steady, not frantic, not rushed, not performative. Steady light changes environments without burning itself out. That is why your preparation feels quiet. That is why nothing needs to be announced yet. That is why patience is strengthening instead of weakening you. Remain where you are with honesty. Do not rush to escape the waiting. Waiting is not absence. It is formation. God's message is not late. It is exact. And so is your timing. If this touched your soul, if something inside you relaxed instead of reaching, comment 111, because you know it. You were called. Final confirmation. You are not imagining this. Chosen one, take a breath and let this land without resistance. You are not imagining what you feel. The sense of something big coming is real, earned, and timely. It did not appear because you wanted it to. It appeared because you were ready to recognize it. God's message does not arrive early, and it does not arrive late. It arrives when awareness has matured enough to carry truth without distortion. Spiritual awakening unfolds in layers. First awareness, then pressure, then clarity, then steadiness. Each layer prepares you for the next. Nothing was skipped. Nothing was rushed. If you are here now, it is because you have already passed through stages that required honesty, endurance, and surrender. The calm certainty you feel now is not coincidence. It is the evidence of growth. The feeling of something big coming does not mean your life will suddenly become loud or dramatic. It means your alignment has deepened. It means your role is clarifying. It means your responsibility is increasing in a way that matches your integrity. The divine shift you sensed was never meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to meet you where you stand, grounded and awake. You may still have questions. That does not mean doubt. It means humility. Awakening does not remove mystery. It teaches you how to stand peacefully within it. God's message does not demand that you understand everything at once. It asks that you trust what has been consistent. And what has been consistent is this quiet inner knowing that has guided you through confusion, endings, and change. Look back now with clarity. The pressure you felt refined you. The losses redirected you. The delays protected you. The silence taught you how to listen. None of it was wasted. All of it was necessary. Spiritual awakening does not reward fantasy. It rewards faithfulness. And you have been faithful even when you did not know why. The war you sensed beneath the surface of your life was real. It was the tension between staying asleep and choosing awareness, between comfort and truth, between who you were and who you are becoming. You did not imagine that battle. You endured it, and because you endured it, your light is now steady enough to matter. Your light is necessary, not because you are perfect, but because you are present, not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to live honestly. Necessary light does not compete. It does not force. It does not perform. It stands firm and changes what it touches simply by being aligned. This is your confirmation. You are exactly where you need to be, not behind, not off track, not waiting for permission. The divine shift is not something you chase. It is something you embody, and you are embodying it now, quietly, steadily, without needing proof. If you feel that calm recognition in your body, that grounded certainty that asks for nothing more, you may comment 777 once more as a conscious confirmation of alignment. Not as superstition, not as ritual, simply as acknowledgement. Circle back to the beginning and hear this one final time with clarity and strength. This is a message from God. You are not imagining this. You were called. The war was real, and your light is necessary. Do not shrink it. Do not rush it. Do not doubt it. Stand in it. If this touched your soul, comment 111 because you know it. You were called.